Is Dumb and Dumber a great movie? I think it's a great movie, but here, let's talk about it. So in Dumb and Dumber, we follow Harry and Lloyd, two nimwit dudes on a cross-country trip to Aspen, who are traveling there with the haphazard goal of returning a woman's briefcase. From start to finish, these guys can't do anything right, not even roll up a window. What makes Dumb and Dumber cool, though, is that it matters to use these idiot characters competently. Many films that decide to slapstick it up by having complete maroons as their leads end up drowning in their own stupidity, and those that don't almost always rely on some really cliched techniques to get themselves through. Dumb and Dumber, however, is something unto itself. It is from the slapstick genre, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad film, or even a stupid film, despite what people may think. Let's dive into it so I can elaborate on this rather bold claim. To understand why Dumb and Dumber is better than other similar movies, we first have to talk about how these slapstick films function. You have to appreciate that there's a lot of issues involved in having a simple-minded main cast. For one, you can't have them make correct decisions. Inherently, by having a dim-witted character, they are unable to make the right choices to protect themselves or improve their situation. If they could, then they aren't really dumb, now are they? To put it simply, as Forrest would say, stupid is as stupid does. So, once you've committed to having an imbecile as your main lead, you are obliged to have them make the wrong decisions. When a writer follows through on those actions, they can easily alienate their audience. I believe it's this phenomenon that causes many films within this style of comedy to fail outright. When you watch Master of Disguise, Johnny English, or the recent Pink Panther, you resent the character's idiocy because they consistently sabotage themselves, and others. This makes it impossible to respect these individuals, and even though that's a realistic depiction of an idiot, a film cannot expect that representation to be enjoyed by an audience. Those movies that don't realize this fail utterly. Another major issue of a dumb character is that the plot has to develop in such a way that they can exist within it. This forces the story itself to have an incredibly simple progression. It actually requires a considerable amount of skill from the writer to develop a plot that can support these people without either being utterly nonsensical or intolerably predictable. When films can't toe that line, we end up with things like Freddy Got Fingered and Dude, Where's My Car, where the story makes zero sense. Or even worse, things like Dumb and Dumber 2 and Zoolander 2, where we just don't care to see the ending because we know what's going to happen. There are several conventional ways to make this character archetype work though. One common way is to give the protagonist some significant attribute and focus the plot around that. Some examples are Waterboy's football prowess, Little Nicky's supernatural powers, Ace Ventura's animal communication. Even a prestigious job can function as this attribute, like in Walk Hard, Anchorman, or Semi-Pro. This setup easily solves both the problems mentioned above. By virtue of whatever innate characteristic they possess, these people are superior to others, and that makes them essential to the storyline. Due to those virtues, we respect them and can therefore enjoy watching them. Also, this characteristic is generally interesting and provides a solid core for the story to center around and build off of. Another recurrent way to smooth over the issue of having a protagonist incapable of making intelligent choices is to provide a simple guiding hand. This guiding hand makes all of the difficult decisions for the protagonist, whether it's the parents and stepbrothers, Matilda and Zoolander, or Monix and Semi-Pro. By having this guiding hand present, the protagonist doesn't have to break their mold and act contrary to their idiocy, but the plot can still be easily resolved. This supporting archetype proves to be incredibly necessary to most of these films. On a side note, it also provides someone for the audience to relate to / sympathize with. You really feel for the poor bloke responsible for these nimwits. The last common way of justifying these characters is by making the universe they exist in as stupid as they are. The clearest and best example of this comes from the legendary Leslie Nielsen in Airplane and the Naked Gun. Despite being an absolute idiot, Leslie Nielsen's actions aren't actually deplorable because of the absurdity of literally everything that makes up his environment. Many of the previously mentioned films apply this concept in varying degrees of intensity to just smooth everything over. Walk Hard, Anchorman, and Zoolander all have outlandish elements to their world that make the characters' actions and reactions feel more acceptable to the audience. When we see Dewey's brother half himself with a machete at the beginning of Walk Hard, it establishes the unrealistic level of repercussions, so that later on, when Dewey does things like write protest songs for midgets or have a pet monkey, we no longer expect a follow-through on the consequences of those actions. So that's how most movies make this archetype of a stupid protagonist work. Now that we've established how people typically make these films, let's look at what makes Dumb and Dumber exceptional. The thing that makes Dumb and Dumber stand out to me is that it doesn't do any of this. Lloyd and Harry don't have any special characteristics to them. They have no hidden skills, superpowers, or special jobs. They're deadbeat fools, through and through. Not only that, but no one helps them make their decisions, and the universe they live in doesn't bend reality to dismiss the consequences of their actions. The way that Dumb and Dumber functions is through clever writing. These guys consistently make the stupidest decisions every step of the way, but through sheer dumb luck, it is always actually the right choice. Now let's stop and think about that statement for a moment. When they run from the gas man at the beginning of the film, they dodge a bullet. When Harry lights his leg on fire, he saves Lloyd. When Lloyd takes a piss in a bottle, they get out of a speeding ticket. When they poison a hitchhiker by accident, it turns out that they're saving themselves from a hitman. When Lloyd misses the turnoff to Colorado, he accidentally dodges a police line that would have landed them in jail. Without exaggeration, literally every time they make the logically wrong choice, it actually proves to be the right choice. This keeps us from being irritated with these guys while allowing them to be idiots. Now you might be thinking, wait, isn't that bending reality like you had just said? No, let me clarify. This isn't the bending reality you see in other films. That kind of bending reality is like when Ron Burgundy and the crew have a battle in the middle of the street, or when Austin Powers uses his mojo to seduce the women trying to kill him. These events, unlike those, are possible, they're just unlikely. I admire the writer's ability to find a way to stay true to these characters while naturally progressing the story along. It's particularly impressive because he manages to avoid using all of the crutches others usually rely on to make this work. Many people call this a dumb movie, but it really isn't. It's a carefully considered film, even if it is a slapstick comedy. So to wrap things up, Dumb and Dumber stands a head above all others of its ilk. Not only do we have brilliant performances from Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, but more importantly, we have a coherent story about two idiots. That's just something you don't see. Other movies like this film's sequel and prequel are crap by comparison. Each plot development in Dumb and Dumber was carefully constructed to prevent creating disdain for a main duel, whilst propelling them through a unique story. The typical ways that people accomplish this feat feel overly contrived, and in many cases are simply lazy. You can't recreate Dumb and Dumber or rip it off, because it's unrepeatable. Each line and action builds towards something special, something admirable even. No, Dumb and Dumber doesn't set out to teach anything, there are no moral underpinnings or social commentary, but I know of no other film that uses characters like these so proficiently. If you accept the limitations to this form of comedy and can appreciate it for what it is, then Dumb and Dumber is a great film. I give it an 8.5 out of 10, and it deserves more credit than it's given by most people. So that's Dumb and Dumber. It was a pretty good movie, I feel. I think it was a great movie, honestly. When we go and take a look at it, and you really break it down and look closely, you get to see that there's so much more going on in this film than other films like it. I know I referenced a ton of them, and I'm not going to go on, you just watch the video, but isn't it just amazing when you stop and think about all of these different slapstick films, how similar they all are, how much they rely on those same little tricks to get you through, whereas Dumb and Dumber, it's its own thing. It's the entire story is what makes it work. It's the fact that it uses all of it to just keep you entertained, to keep these characters going, to keep you from hating them. It's a very thin line, and it could have blown up in their face, and absolutely Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. I always go to call him Jeff Dunham. But Jeff Daniels really carry it in a lot of ways. And that's part of it, but I really believe that it's that writing at the end of the day that keeps it all together. Great film, really interesting, does a lot for the genre, and just it's so unique. That's the cool thing about it. That's why it's a great film, because it's something you can't recreate. It's something you can't rip off. And I know I just said that, but man, I just gotta reiterate. Wow. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. I hope that made you think a little bit, made you think about the genre of slapstick comedy a little more, so that you start to appreciate what makes a bad one, what makes a good one, what tricks they use to kind of get away with having such lowbrow humor. And as always, if you guys enjoyed what you saw, give us a like and comment below with your opinion. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't agree with me. This is supposed to be a conversation. That's why is it great? Because I think it is, but I'm sure there's people out there that disagree with me, and I'd love to hear why you disagree with me. As always, though, hope you enjoyed, and see ya.